Apologies, bear with me here. Okay, here we go. So VandalStar is a new initiative for the University of Idaho. We did a request for proposals for a software like this that would help us with student success, and then ended up contracting with Hobson Starfish, which is used at more than 400 institutions across the United States, both in public and private and community colleges, 2-year, 4-year schools. So we know that they have a lot of good use statistics and case studies out there, but it is only, again, just a tool. It's just a software product, and so we'll only be as good as what we use it for. I do want to show you, I want to start off the presentation by kind of talking about the premise of Starfish, or our VandalStar. So there's this story where a boy is throwing starfish back into the ocean, and a man comes along and says, "What are you doing? You can't possibly save them all." And the boy just keeps going, and he throws one in, and he says, "I made a difference for that one." And that is really what the foundation of Starfish is, why it is we're doing what we're doing. I know I am very passionate, and all the faculty and staff that I talk to on campus are also very passionate about student success and helping students go on to achieve their dreams. That's how I got into advising, and really find joy in helping the students figure out what they're excited about, what they're passionate about, and going on to a future where they are excited to go to work, because it's not work, it's play. And so, you know, there are things along the way that we can do to help with that. Across the nation, there is a lot of discussion about the value of higher education and the cost of higher education, and retention rates and completion rates. And we actually have, the University of Idaho has the highest retention rate in the state of Idaho, and we're actually doing better than the national average. So national average is around 73, 74, 75% of our first year student to second year retention rate. U of I is at 82%. So we are doing good. But there's always room for improvement, and we're trying to find ways to do that, because that 18% of the students after their first year here don't stay, don't continue on. And so it's more than just about, you know, the numbers and how it can help our revenue as an institution. It's about the student experience and making a difference for each student that we can help. So with that in mind, I want to kind of take you through the student's view before we dive into the faculty staff side of things. So this is in alignment with the University of Idaho strategic plan. There is a lot of capability with this tool that we will be using, and we'll be onboarding more facets of it as we continue with the phased rollout. What I'm really excited about is the online appointment scheduling application, and having that ability across the university. So inherently, VandalStar or Starfish is a communication tool, kind of the base root of it. And so that means that this is a tool that is going to help connect a lot of offices across the university into a shared platform where we can provide holistic services for a student. So we might have a student who visits with their advisor and then is referred to Career Services, and Career Services can see the note and say, oh yeah, this is kind of what we're talking about. They enter in their note. Maybe the conversation took a different turn. And really providing that through the process of their time here. So I do want to remind folks to please mute their microphone. We have developed a lot of resources and support for you, and we'll take a look at the website here later on, but there is a faculty staff guide and a student guide if it is needed. It's got screenshots with step-by-step applications. If at any point you do have any questions or run into an issue, please contact us at vandalstar@uidaho.edu, or you can call us at 885-VSTAR 8787. We do want to help as many people as we can, and in order to do that to the best of our ability, screenshots are super helpful, especially if you run into a technical error or you think that it should be doing something that it's not doing. So please send us screenshots or document, you know, this is what I did and this is what I saw when I did this. We are live university-wide for all undergraduate students and non-degree seeking students. The non-degree seeking students only apply to those who are not in high school, so you will not see dual credit students in the system, and you will not see graduate or law students in the system. We haven't built out their functionality yet. So with that, we have a vanity URL that anybody who has a role in the system can use. It's vandalstar.uidaho.edu. On the resource website, there is a button that you can choose to click login. It is based on single sign-on, which means that if you are already logged into Vandal Web or BB Learn and you go to VandalStar, it should shoot you straight in and you shouldn't have to log in every time that you go into it. This is also using dual authentication, and so, you know, if you have run out of your 14-day time slot, you will have to log in at some point in time again, and so forth. We are also seeing some of the issues that we see existing now with Vandal Web and Degree Audit, where you get a no assertions error or an HTTP error because of the way that works. Yes, the system is not set up for graduate students. It will be in the future, but it is not for this semester. So when a student first logs in, this is kind of their navigation menu that they operate with. The system is based on a mobile responsive user interface that just went live with the product last month. And so it's really actually pretty cool. Everybody has a smart device, smartphone, or something. And so you can effectively save the website address as an icon on your phone, which turns it into an app. So students are already using this, and they can just save that as an icon, and bam, they've got an app, and it is working responsibly for them. When they first log in, this is what it looks like. It takes them directly to their success network, which is services and people, and then the connections that are built specifically for them. So it is pulling from the courses they are registered, what is in our course management system, and the instructors that are listed. It's pulling from the advisors that are listed in our banner. So the advisor is listed. As we continue to onboard with services across the university, there might be other relationships that a student has, such as if they're in the honors program, or if they're a veteran, or an athlete, or pre-health, or SSS, or camp. You know, there's quite a few options. So as we continue onboarding over this semester with those offices, those relationships will be built in the system. And you might see a service show up, or the student may see a service show up that then is there for them because of that relationship that is there. A student might have Scott showing because Scott's the VA advisor and the student is in the VA program, and so forth. With that, they'll have then their services that show, but they could also click on show other services. Or they don't even have to do that. They can go up here and type tutoring, and then it will show them the services that are available for tutoring. So what we've done is we've identified as much as possible all of the services that students could possibly need from the university and put it in one place for them. If there are any in the services lists that is missing, please let us know so we can work to get that in the system. This is what it would look like on their mobile device. So again, that navigation menu. And then the services. With that mobile responsive design, they have turned it on so that now if a student is on their phone, they click on call, it opens up the phone app and it will immediately then call the office that they're trying to get a hold of. They don't have to try to hunt down the phone number. If you click call, though, on a computer, it's going to open up a dialog box that says, which one do you want which program do you want to use? So just kind of keep that in mind. If we keep going, here again is services and how it looks on the phone device. There's a question that came through that says, can a student add a connection on their own? Not really. They can't go through and favorite different services or something like that. They build a connection through the relationship that they establish on campus. And so, you know, if they start interacting with the pre-health program, then Avis or Liz will have them added to the pre-health program's roster of students, and then that builds the connection that way. So when we click into a service, this is also what it can look like. It has the contact information, the members that have been identified as part of that service, and then they can click on schedule an appointment. So if there's a schedule an appointment block out here, that means that we've turned on service scheduling, which is going to provide them with all of the availability of the people in that service for the quickest time slot available. And then they can go through and choose one. Maybe they want to meet with career services and they just need to get in as soon as possible. So then they can choose the more immediate time slot, or they can choose to meet with their specific career liaison. If we're looking at the connections and you click on the caret, this is what a student will see: the view profile, call, email, or schedule. So if that person has turned on their online appointment scheduling, that has that option then to schedule. They say, okay, what do you want to schedule about? What do you need help with? We program in those categories, and so the student then clicks through. It provides them with the appointment times that are available for that category or to that appointment time. Students don't usually know how long a conversation will take around a certain category, so, but we know that. We know that some conversations take longer than others. And so if it is a 60-minute appointment type that has that, it will then only show them time slots that are available that are 60 minutes in length. This example is showing 30 minutes. So they click through and they choose which one they want. They chose Friday, 10:30. It has location. If there's multiple locations, they can change. Maybe there's a phone option or a different office. And then they can put in some more and then hit confirm. If it was about a course, they'll be able to select the course that they want to meet with, because again, that's pulling in from our course management system. And then it's confirmed and says, I look forward to seeing you. The student immediately gets a notification by email that says this has been confirmed for you. It shows up in their dashboard as an upcoming appointment. And for the folks that had turned on those two-way calendar, it shows up immediately on the employee's calendar as an appointment slot and in the employee's VandalStar dashboard, which will make sense here when we look at it later. So this is what an advisor would see if they click on the appointment in their Outlook calendar just as an appointment marker. And then this is the student view. So it says who they're meeting with. They can cancel from here and say, you know, I just got called into work, and then they cancel it. That provides a notification to the person they're meeting with, depending on what email preferences are set, and also cancels it in VandalStar and on the calendar of the person it was scheduled with. So then we call this the dashboard of what students see. They can see what's coming up for appointments. They'll see any kudos that have been raised on them, or if there is what's called a flag that has been raised as an alert. hey, maybe we need to pay attention to this. And then as they go through their navigation that I showed you, they can go straight to any messages that have come from the system. This one just happens to be at about an appointment that was made. This is pretty basic. It's their profile settings. And then their list of courses, so they can navigate to see all of their courses. They can go back to previous semesters. They can look at the current term. The current term only is going to pull in the instructor information. Previous terms will only show what the course was. It has the contact information right there for them, the picture, and then if they've turned on the online appointment scheduling, they can click on that to turn on that online, or to schedule that appointment online. I do want to mention, I keep pointing out that the fact that there's pictures here, I'm sure you've noticed. We are pulling in pictures from the Vandal card office for all faculty, staff, and students that are in the system. We'll do that at 2 different points in the semester as we approach the beginning of the semester, and then again after the 10th day. It's too much of a data upload process to do it every day, so we chose just those 2 points in the semester. The student also has the ability to raise their hand. We know sometimes students don't feel comfortable vocalizing what they need help with or asking someone. And oftentimes they have crisis moments when they are alone, or perhaps, in the middle of the night or something like that. So they can raise their hand in the system 24 hours a day online in here. That doesn't mean that we are going to be replying 24 hours a day. They are told that responses will be made Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 and standard business hours. We also advertise that this is not for an emergency. If they need help, they're actively bleeding, they need to call 911. We'll have 4 different options for I need help for fall semester for students. We'll have a specific I need help for my instructor, which goes to the instructor, and we'll talk more about that workflow process when we look at the faculty staff side of things. They'll have an I need help from my advisor that goes to their advisor. We'll have I need help from POLIA that will only show for students who are in the POLIA courses. Then that request goes directly to the POLIA manager, who then will help triage and then assigned to a particular instructor if needed. And then a general I need help, which is going to be kind of the catch-all for this semester. So they can say, I need help. I really am not getting along with my roommate. What are my options? I need help about this course. I've talked to my instructor. Is there something else that I can also do? I need help. My mom just died. There's just all of these different situations that they sometimes don't know what to do. And maybe they don't know who to even ask about it. And so they can raise this in more of a modern feeling environment, and that will go through and work through the workflow as we program it to. So that's the basics of the student side of things. It is pretty user intuitive for them. We've got students that are in and using it now, raising their hand for I need help, or scheduling appointments with the people that they need to meet with. As we continue through this process, they'll have a lot more features that are turned on. We'll activate success plans in the future, which will, if you think about it, students that are in their first semester, maybe we have a checklist of things that they can do. Or if they're on academic probation or disqualification and we form an academic plan, we can put that plan into the success plan and have a checklist of things to help turn them around. Is there any questions on the student view before we get into really diving into the faculty staff side? Okay, so I'll pay attention to the chat feature, and then we'll just go ahead and keep going here. So again, want to remind you that there is a lot of support available on the website. We are continuing to add information to it as we continue with the phased rollout. So you might hear occasionally, hey, check out this new resource or something, or if you're involved with the class as we approach early warning grades time, we'll guide you to the progress survey help. So a question just came through and says, if a student needs help in a roommate situation, I'm supposed to help? So the answer to that is it depends on the workflow. You know, if you're the instructor of the course, then no, you aren't going to be the one who gets the flag for that. And I'll show you where we have the workflow for those flags. Right now for this semester, we have a global I need help because we need to continue building into the services. So once we get housing up and going this semester, we can create a specific I need help flag for them. And then that flag would go to them instead of to the workflow that we have established. So it's been about a year now since we've really started the conversation and contracted with Starfish. We were up and running in spring and operated with phase 1 in about 50 courses across the university. And one course that was actually based up in Coeur d'Alene. We piloted the flags, kudos, progress surveys, and notes, and the online appointment scheduling with the pilot group. We learned from that as to modifications that we need to make with moving forward. We conducted a pilot this summer with Polia in a smaller section, and to identify how we could use VandalStar for their use in the fall semester. And now we're here in the fall. The intention was to roll out university-wide for this semester. We were going to be going full speed ahead, all flags flowing. But what we were learning from the pilots and in talking with some deans and associate deans and other leadership on campus, we decided to phase it out even more. And so for fall semester, we are piloting with 100 level courses across the university, online and in person. And then we'll go with full adoption for all courses in the spring semester. With that, for fall semester, we are onboarding a lot more of the student success offices that I was mentioning earlier. We'll have a lot of areas up and going so students can do their online appointment scheduling with some of those offices. And then we'll continue to build those out as we get further into this. We are really looking at a 3-year implementation timeline to turn on all of the features that we want to use. We're being very dedicated and diligent in conversations and trying to make sure that we are operating for best case for University of Idaho. One of the things that we also can do with the that we'll be doing this semester is onboarding with the ability to do Vandal card swipe and what's called a kiosk system. So the new Vandal Success Center here on the 3rd floor of the Commons will have a kiosk that supports multiple offices that students can check into for their appointments. We'll also be operating with a kiosk system on the 2nd floor of the library for the drop-in tutoring. Before we really get into showing you a demonstration and getting into the nitty-gritty of how you can use the system, it's important to understand how it works on a more of a philosophical, I guess, kind of set of how it functions. So Starfish is a roles and relationships-based system. You have to have a specific role and a relationship to a student in order to have some of the functionality that you'll be able to use. So some of those standard roles would be students and instructors and advisors. Students, I already gave you kind of a preview of what they can do and use. They can do the online appointment scheduling, respond to notifications, contact offices and support network. General user is going to be anybody on campus or in the university that has completed their Banner student training or has faculty advisor access in Vandal Web and has completed their FERPA tutorial. That access is going to give folks the ability to help any student that walks in their door. We know that we serve students in multiple ways every day. And you might not be an instructor in one of their courses, and you might not be their academic advisor, but they are still coming to you for some reason for help on something. Maybe they're coming to talk to you about a really cool career opportunity they heard about, and you have a connection for that. Or maybe they want to minor or major or switch their major. You know, there's all kinds of different opportunities where a student might come to you. And so we want you to have the ability to pull up the student profile for that student, just as if you would in Vandal Web and Degree Audit for looking at their transcript and seeing what they've been doing. You should have that same ability in VandalStar. For instructors and TAs, that role is determined by our course offering system and how you've been loaded into that system to CAUS. For TAs, it is important to know that this is not builder graders. They have to be an actual TA who is helping out with the instruction of the course. If they are labeled as a builder grader, then they will not have the VandalStar access. Faculty advisors and professional advisors, again, are pulling in from Banner based on their advisee roster that is coded. All of this will get updated every night, overnight, so similar to Degree Audit. If a student drops the class or adds a class or advisor assignments change, then that changes overnight and is reflected again in the next day. We have what's called a one-to-one student relationship or an all students relationship. So instructors and advisors have a one-to-one relationship to the students they are serving. Advising leadership or chairs or deans have what's called an all students relationship. So advising leadership is going to be those folks in the colleges that are the directors of student services or have been assigned as the designee for retention activities for their college. Instructors will be able to raise and clear flags where appropriate. They'll be able to utilize the online appointment scheduling. They'll be able to submit student notes. So all of this is pretty much the same, except for instructors, they'll be able to submit what's called a progress survey for their course. We will be utilizing progress surveys for early warning grades. And I'll get to that here in a little bit when we talk about the way things will operate for fall semester. Advising leadership is going to be monitoring their college to step in where needed for the flag workflow. So I've mentioned a couple of times about workflow and about what flags are. So let's pretend that the instructor raises a flag in the system. They are saying, hey, Johnny, I've missed you in class. You've been absent for a week. What's going on? Is there something I can help you about? So the instructor knows that something is going on. It's a call of action to the student. So it sends an alert to the student and also sends the student an email. Hey, Johnny, please connect with me as soon as possible. I've missed you in class this week. Let's say that the student doesn't actually pretend or doesn't actually reply in this situation. So with a workflow design and procedures, the advisor then steps in and says, hey, Johnny, tries to reach them. So tries through at least 3 different methods, and maybe the first one will be successful. So try calling them on the phone, emailing them through Outlook, or sending a message through VandalStar. you know, if the advisor pulls up and sees that Johnny is in the housing complex because of what's listed in the Success Network, then Johnny can say, hey, housing, could you go knock on his door and check on him, make sure he's okay? So in this case, the advisor connects with the student. Student says, I've been so sick this week, I just didn't know what to do. Advisor says, oh, okay, let's get you helped out. I'm sorry that you've been so sick. Did you know that we have a student health clinic? Let's look at your Success Network. You have an assigned success coach. Let's get you scheduled with an appointment with them so you can talk about how to turn things around. Let's make sure that you're connecting back to your instructors, and let's figure out how to help you through this. So the advisor and the student have a conversation. They come up with a plan. The advisor then enters in comments and clears the flag, which closes the loop back to the instructor, which makes the instructor happy. Yay, you know, everybody's cheering and all that stuff. So this is, you know, a perfect scenario, or, well, the perfect scenario would be the student replying back to the instructor. But let's just go with this. I have had multiple times over my 10 years at the university where I've raised my hand about a concern for a student, and, you know, it goes off into the ether. I'm sure that it got resolved, that I'm sure the student was taken care of, but I never heard anything back about what the resolution was, or what follow-up actually happened. And I've had many faculty come to me and say the same thing, or raise an alert, and you know, and so then I reply. So this ability to have that communication flow to close the loop and make sure that people who need to know what's going on is going to be a huge asset for us here at the University of Idaho. Yes, happy faculty is a good thing. So we have identified some initial flags that we'll be using for the fall semester. They're the same flags that we used in the previous 2 pilots. The first 3 are going to be predominantly in the instructor area. Only instructors and TAs can raise them. And we are not requiring anybody to raise flags. There is no expectation or number that you have to meet throughout a semester to you know, do certain things. We ask that folks use it, and hopefully you will, but again, no requirement. And so as an instructor, you can raise a flag about an attendance issue, missing late assignments, or in danger of failing. For the first 2, we say, you know, anybody can clear these. Anybody being instructor or advisor or advising leadership or academic leadership or whatever. If you see the flag and you have a conversation with the student, then you can clear them or put a note in. But with in danger of failing, only the instructor knows if the student is in danger of failing their course. And so we leave that responsibility in the hands of the instructor. So if an instructor does raise a flag of in danger of failing, there is an expectation that if that is resolved, that they go back in and clear that flag to make note of that whenever it is resolved. The 4th flag is academic issue. This is going to be both for faculty and staff. This is going to be our catch-all for this semester. It is not to replace the care report. If you have a student that you're concerned is in danger of harming themselves or others, then please report that to the Vandal Care team. Or if they are actually bleeding or actively bleeding, please make sure that you call 911. Whoops. So the academic issue flag could be used for a multitude of reasons. Maybe they need to complete their teacher certification paperwork. Maybe they've missed multiple advising appointments. Maybe they were attending class and so excited and engaged, and then all of a sudden they are there, but they are not there. You know something's wrong. You say, hey, Johnny, can I help you with anything? Johnny brushes you off. You're like, okay, well, maybe he's got a better relationship with someone else on campus. I'm going to raise an alert because this is impacting his academics. I know something is going on. We also do have 4 more flags that we added just actually a week ago. for the POLIA system, for the POLIA engagement initiative that we're doing. So right now we have a flag that POLIA is raising if a student misses their first course. And then there's a makeup that the student is expected to go to. If the student doesn't go to that makeup, then on day 6, they will get dropped for non-attendance. And then POLIA will actually raise a flag that says you've been dropped for non-attendance. That goes to the student and goes to the advisor. So there's that, 3-day window or so where hopefully something can happen to get them back in the course or help them register for another class or so forth. So trying to bridge that gap, because that is nothing that has ever happened before, where the student or the advisor were notified that they were dropped from a class, at least in my experience. And then throughout the semester, POLIA in the spring had instituted an attendance requirement policy. So now if a student misses 2 courses, 2 classes periods, then they will receive an alert, a warning essentially, that says if you miss the 3rd one, this is an automatic fail for the course. And then they have another flag for if a student does hit that F threshold, where they automatically fail the course. So one of the questions that just came through was, can you select more than one flag at once? No, you can't. You would choose one. And so if it's between attendance issue or missing late assignments that you're trying to choose from, I would probably go directly to in danger of failing, because both of those are critical enough together to categorize as in danger of failing. Another question said, should we send a flag if we call the student first to notate the resolution or what was said in the conversation? You don't have to raise a flag if you've already had a conversation. You certainly can, and then immediately clear it. It might be a little confusing to the student though. You can actually just put a note into the student's file or create a message if you wanted to send a copy of that. There's a couple of different things that you can do that we'll show here in a little bit. So with that, flags are more of an intervention. We need to do something. We need to help the student turn things around or something like that. We also have the ability to do kudos, which is positive reinforcement. Students sometimes say they feel invisible in the classroom. Maybe they've got some imposter syndrome going on. Their confidence isn't very high. So a little bit goes a long way, because we know students don't stop out generally because they slam into a mountain. It's not because of some catastrophic event that happens in their life. Sometimes it does, and we're here for them if they need that. But usually it's all the little pebbles along the way that really cause that to happen. And so hopefully VandalStar will help kind of even out those pebbles a little bit so we can help students more in the moment. And with that is kudos. Maybe you have a big class and you can't possibly get to know everybody, but you do know certain points in the semester when you have tests or quizzes or something that you can make a difference. You have 5 students on the last test that did really great. So you can do a bulk kudo and click on those 5 students, activate it, and say, great, good job. Please don't make it personalized if you do a bulk anything, because it is going to multiple students. Maybe you have a student that started off in your class and was just really worried about how well that they would do or if they weren't ready for it. And they are doing all the right things. They've been coming to you or office hours. They've been going to tutoring, reading the book, very active and engaged in the classroom. And at midterms, they have a C. Well, good job for them. You are showing improvement. Let's keep going with this. So again, we're not asking that you use flags and kudos all the time. You can if you want to. You don't have to use them at all. And we're definitely not asking you to start throwing kudos out like candy. It's totally up to what you want to do. So with that, I would like to go into the demo and start going through some of the nitty-gritty of how to actually use this. If you do have questions, please continue to send them through on the chat. So you can follow along and do this with us. Go ahead and open up a browser. I'm pretty sure that I'm still sharing this. So can you see the new screen that I just moved over? Yes, awesome, great. So we're going to go to www.uidaho.edu/VandalStar. Go ahead and log into a browser. And this is the resource website that we have developed for you. It's got, you know, the scrolling pictures here of students graduating. Yay! It's also got this gold button up here that says log in. Don't do that right now. We're going to look at some other things. Over here on the left-hand side, it's got our navigation. There's resources and about. If we open them up, you can see more inside. If you go to the demo site, you can log in past the firewall and watch an 1.5-hour demonstration from when Hobson's was demonstrating starfish to us. You can also click into these, and so if we go into the resource page, there's resource info for students and there's resource info for faculty and staff. As I said, it is pretty user intuitive for students, but if they go into the student side, they can download the PDF guide. It's 10 pages. I know that sounds like a lot, but it's a step-by-step with screenshots about what they would need to do to use the system. Along with that, we've taken that information and turned it into the accordion. So if they wanted to know specifically how to do a particular thing, they can open that up and just look at that. There is over here a student presentation. So all of the slides that I showed you of the student view are linked right here. So we'll go ahead and go to the faculty staff side. Again, you'll see that there is the accordion link. So if you want to know how to do a specific thing, you can open that up and you'll see step by step for how to do that. There is also the faculty staff presentation, the slides that we would use if we are not doing a live demo. So you can see screenshots for that. You can download the PDF guide, which we'll do in just a moment. But first, I want to go to the proposed flag workflow. So this actually has the step-by-step of what we are expecting for fall semester. It has all of the flags and the workflow that goes with it. So if we were to look at a student-raised flag, the academic advisor is notified in this case. So there actually would be, if it was the advisor, need help from my advisor, it goes to the advisor. If I need help from my instructor, it goes to the instructor, and so forth. So there is an expectation that the person it goes to will reply within 2 business days. That doesn't mean that it has to be resolved. It just needs some reply back. So you can be like, let's set up an appointment, or, you know, here's your answer, or, you know what, I'm going to connect you with someone else, and continue with that loop. After a certain point in time, if there is no activity on it, then advising leadership will step in to help with making sure that that question is moving through the process. Same thing, workflow for each item and the expectation for that. So for an academic issue flag and an attendance issue missing late assignments, we give a 2-week window for some kind of resolution to be reached and the flag to get cleared. For in danger of failing, we said this is a much more critical, and so that has a 1 week. It is a call to action to the student to do something. So hopefully just by initiating that flag and you saying, hey, Johnny, I'm really worried about you, let's meet and talk through this, or do X, Y, and Z, then the student will actually do something. And then earlier I mentioned that we were going to be doing early warning grades through what's called the progress survey. I'm sure most of you have heard that we are adopting or upgrading to Banner 9 here It's now available for you to be using in the test version, so you should be trying to get familiar with it as much as possible. We will be turning on Banner 9 October 1st, and so flipping the switch and moving into the new system. With that, our previous early warning grade reporting system will no longer be supported. That was a homegrown system that we created. It is not supported by Ellucian and the Banner 9 software. And so it was really fortuitous timing where we have VandalStar that has the ability to take that, and we've modified it a bit, and we'll roll out with it then for this fall semester and future semesters. So the way it had worked in the past was that instructors went into VandalWeb, into the early warning grade line item, and entered in the early warning grade for their students and submitted it. Then the registrar's office would wait until the deadline, and then the next day would run a report in Excel. That Excel list was given to the colleges and then distributed to the departments and to the advisors. And at some point in that process, the student was notified of the fact that they had an early warning grade. So, you know, they could have gotten feedback fairly immediately, or it could have taken 2 weeks for them to know that they had an early warning grade. And by that point in time, it's probably a lot less likely that they're going to turn things around. Early warning grades are actually super critical. It is a best use practice at many institutions across the nation, because we know that by midterms, if a student isn't doing well in one class, they might be able to pull it up, but if it's multiple classes, it's too far gone. We're too late in the semester to really make a difference for that semester. And so then we start talking about strategic withdrawal and what their future graduation plan looks like, because now we have to alter it. So early warning grades are super important to help students know earlier in the semester that they might need to adjust their practice, their study habits, or something like that. So the way it will work for fall semester is that all instructors will have the opportunity to turn in a progress survey. That is all 100 through 400 level classes. For the 100 level courses, because we are doing a pilot, they will actually get email reminders to go in and complete it. So we'll turn on the progress survey. 100 level instructors will get told the process, and then once they complete it, they're not automatically reminded. It's only if that survey hasn't been completed that they would get automatic reminders that it's just saying, hey, I'm here, don't forget about me. They will still be due along the standard timeline. So at the end of week 3, notifications will go out, and then they'll be due on September 18th, just like has been established and passed by registrar's office. For courses that are 200 to 400 level, there isn't an expectation that the progress survey will be completed, but we hope that it will be. It's there for your benefit if you do want to turn to submit it. We know that there are quite a few 200 level classes that have turned in progress surveys in the past, and so we wanted to be able to provide that option for them. But those courses are not going to get the automated reminder if it didn't get completed. It will just be there and available in VandalStar for folks to complete. So the way the progress survey works is the instructor will have a list of their students. They'll have their roster, and there will be a column for D, a column for F, a column for poor attendance, and a column with a comment box in for each student if they want to enter in comments. We've also added the ability to raise a kudo at the same time. So effectively not really making it early warning grades anymore, but more of a progress point in the semester for weeks 4 and 5. So the instructor goes down through their roster and clicks in the appropriate box for the student. Maybe the student doesn't have any box that's clicked, that's okay. And then the instructor hits submit. The moment that progress survey is submitted, it will execute a workflow for the flag for the item that was identified. So if you, on your progress survey, and this goes back to one of the questions earlier, is can you raise multiple flags at the same time? In this case, yes. In this case, you can mark a D column and poor attendance, and you can give them a kudo at the same time too if you really wanted to, or comments, and it will do all of those that you mark at the same time for that student. So in the past where I mentioned, an Excel sheet was generated and it was given, and it might be 2 weeks before a student heard or had someone reach out to them. Now when you hit that submit, it executes the workflow, the student is notified, the advisor is notified, and then we can start triaging in the moment. We'll also have, as in past semesters, if that student is living in housing and residence life, then our housing academic coordinator folks will be notified as well about that early warning or that progress survey. So the workflow for that is here in this page. You feel free to go look at it at any time. We'll go ahead now and go back to this website and click on Download Guide PDF. This is a 21-page document for faculty and staff that again has the step-by-step with pictures for how to do different things. Here on page 3 is actually where we're going to go ahead and scroll to. And there are 2 links that are provided for you. One is the live version and one is the test version. We are live. We have that vanity URL, vandalstar.uidaho.edu, that will route you into VandalStar. But for today's purposes, we'll be operating in the test tenant or the sandbox, because we don't want to raise a flag on 12,000 students across the university and have this mass panic happen, right? So if you want to test things out and see how it works and play around, please feel free to do it in the test version, but be a lot more careful in the live version. It is important to make sure that you are in the right version also for what we're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and click into the test tenant. Go ahead and click on that also. If you're already in with single sign-on, it should take you straight through. If you're not, then you might have to sign in or use your Duo device. If you do not have a role in the system already, you're not going to make it to this point. You will get a screen that says you do not have a role. Please contact your system administrator. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we have been very diligent in deciding what roles are going to be in the system and the access that is granted. We are onboarding with at least 15 more roles as we speak, programming those in outside, so, honors advisor and veterans advisor and so on. The faculty guide that is on the website is available for download. I can try to see if I can attach it in the link here or in the chat. It doesn't look like I can, but you can download it from the website. So if you have someone that runs into that no role error, just have them contact us at vandalstar@uidaho.edu, and then we'll have conversations about what kind of access they might need and so forth. I also do want to show you the live version, and I'm not in the right browser. My cookies are having problems right now, so I should have thought of that ahead of time. But when I load in, this is the live version, and you can see here there should be the VandalStar logo. So it should have a great big pride gold eye with VandalStar. It says up here that this is Starfish Ops for operational. And then over in the other side, this is the test tenant. And up in the URL, it does say test. So it is important to make sure that you are in the right version. So when you first log in, many of you might be seeing something different. This is the screen that you will see when you first log in for the very first time. If you've never done it before, This is the office hours setup wizard. There is an option to have this show every time that you log in, and then you can just close it, or you can uncheck that and close it and you'll never see it again, because you can get to the office hours setup wizard from multiple places within the platform. So within this, I call this the dashboard. There is these open dialog boxes here that can open up. They are able to be moved around, so you can change your view or how things are laid out. You might not have the same thing that I see, because like example, you might not have my services because you haven't been affiliated to a service yet. So I have been listed as a user or as an employee within academic advising and advising services. We've been doing some testing. So if you don't have services, then you're not going to see that. Appointments, once you have appointments rolling, you can have that show and just see the appointments as they're coming through. Flags I'm managing is going to be, and this is a lot of flags right now because this is our test tenant, and there's a lot, and I have a global relationship, so there's a lot of flags in here. Flags I'm managing are going to be the flags that are tied to you as a one-to-one relationship, so they should be for the students that you have that relationship with. And recent changes are going to show any flags or kudos or appointments or anything that come through based on the relationship, again, that you have. Up here we have a lot of options. There's the scheduling wizard. Again, as I said, it's available in multiple areas. Over here on the right hand side, you can search for students. So you can search for any student. Oops. Jesse is my wonderful, he's on the wonderful student who's on the implementation team with us, and has said, yes, you may use me. If we go over here to the left-hand side, there is a 3-line. This is your navigation bar, or I call it the hamburger menu. If you click on that, it will open up, and your picture should be showing with your name. Again, pictures are pulling in from the Vandal card office. And then our menu of items along here. You shouldn't have admin, so don't be worried if that's not there. We're going to go ahead and click on the caret here to go down, and it opens up, you see, with some options. So we're going to go to institutional profile. And this should pull up a larger screen with a larger picture of yourself. You're welcome. We ask that you check your institution email and make sure that is correct. Input your phone number if it's not pulling in. Verify that your time zone is correct, because this is how appointments will be scheduled and how it will be set up if you turn on your two-way calendar integration. You can put in your title. From this page, you can also change what your default login page is, and this will make sense as we move through it a little bit more. But when you first log in, if you always want it to go to your calendar, you can have it do that. Or if you want it to go to your student lists, you can have it do that too. There's a lot of flexibility with that. We ask that you put in a description for a general overview of who you are, and also a biography. You'll see where this comes into play later. Don't worry about putting that into the test tenant. There are a couple of things that I'll have you do as we go along, because that will depend on further functionality that I show you how to use. But for the most part, you won't be doing too much in the test tenant. You don't have to worry about doing your biography and stuff. We want you to do that in the live version. We do get the question about cell phone. You can put your cell phone number in if you would like to. The cell phone number is not displayed to the students. However, if I am the one logged in, if an employee is the one logged in, and I have the Student Success Network showed up or pulled up, and you're in that Success Network, it will show the cell phone number there. And so, you know, that's a good thing if I'm by myself and I needed it to contact you. But if a student is with me, they may inadvertently see your cell phone number. So proceed with caution. It's totally up to you. Where I mentioned, make sure that your email address is correct. This is actually especially important for folks who used to be a student and then later became an employee, or is currently an employee and then now is also a student. Because you have a student email address and an employee email address, some of them are not pulling in correctly. So we're trying to catch those as much as possible. I'm hopeful that they are all fixed, but definitely let us know. That also is the case for graduate TAs. Graduate TAs have a student email address. It's also highly recommended that they have a sponsored U Idaho email account for work. And so, again, we want to make sure that their work email address is what is getting pulled in and not their student email. Anytime you make changes, there is a submit or never mind over here on the right. And you'll see up here that you can search for students from any page that you're in using VandalStar. If we keep clicking through, we'll go to appointment preferences, and you will be able to say when appointments are scheduled for you, give some programmatic limitations to it. This isn't where you're going to set up office hours. We'll do that a bit later. But this is where you can say what your minimum appointment length is, what you want it to show as, what your scheduling deadline is. So maybe you don't want students to be scheduling an appointment in the same day. You want them to do it by 5 p.m. the day before, or maybe you want it to be by 4 p.m. the day before. It's totally up to you. You can have same day restriction or a couple hours before. You can allow drop-ins. So if we keep going down, there's also my locations. I'll go ahead and ask you to add a location at this point in the test tenant. If you're following along, go ahead and click on add location. It'll open up a dialog box. You'll say what type it is, if it's office, phone, elsewhere, or online. So if you want to operate in a Zoom or Skype or WebEx environment, you can click on online and then enter in the room that you're going to be available in. So we're just going to go ahead and I'll do elsewhere for now. And I'm going to describe the location. I'm going to say Commons Plaza. So go ahead and fill in an office location and then save it. You can put in instructions. So you'll see here that my office, I say please knock. Or my phone appointment, I say Shoshana will call student, because I want to be the one to call the students. I don't want them calling me. I can further edit that to say Shoshana will call student. Please leave a phone number in the description of your appointment request. Because we know sometimes phone numbers aren't the most reliable. Oh, well, there's a character limit. So please leave a phone number in the description. So that got updated. These will fall into your appointments in the order that they are listed. So if you want your default to be to your office location, but you still want to have students have the option to do phone, then make sure that your office location is the one that is listed first in the setup. So I also have elsewhere listed here because we have the ability to do events or group sessions. And so this menu here, you're going to put in all of the available options. When you're setting up the office hour or group session, that's where you're going to tick in the checkbox which ones you want to activate. There's a question that came through that says, will the system populate offices off campus, such as Coeur d'Alene? The system shouldn't be populating offices. You put in what your office is. So if you're not on the Moscow campus, you're on the Coeur d'Alene campus, then you would put in that you are Coeur d'Alene campus at the Water Center room, such and such. So it's up to you for what you want to call your office name. Granted, it defaults, I'm assuming that most people that are trying to see me will be on the Moscow campus. So that's good feedback for maybe I should put Moscow campus : Idaho Commons room 312. If we keep scrolling down, you'll see what says calendar managers. You have the ability to add folks to the system that help manage your calendar. Would be the same thing as if you had Outlook. Maybe the people who help you schedule appointments and stuff. So for me, it's Haley and Jessica Glover. You can have multiple calendar managers. I would just put them in. And they actually have to have a role within the system in order for them to come in. So now I've got 2 calendar managers. And so on their side of things, in their VandalStar, they go to a menu and they can see the calendars that they manage. If they click on it, then it opens up the calendar, just as if they were looking at an Outlook calendar. Items to note would be if you have a private appointment on your Outlook calendar and you have that 2-way calendar integration going, on your VandalStar calendar for anybody else, so for the calendar manager, that is still going to show as a private appointment. It's not going to display to them the details of that appointment. It's just going to show that there's an appointment there and that it's private. So same settings as what you would expect in Outlook. The advantage of having a calendar manager would be, if you have a high volume of students that you're meeting with and you're out sick someday, and the only thing that you can really do is shoot a text to someone that says, "Oi, help," then they know that they need to go in and cancel your appointments for that day. So they go into your VandalStar calendar and cancel the appointments for that day, and it automatically then shoots out notifications to all of the appointments that you had scheduled. There are other ways to cancel appointments. You can do it through your Outlook as long as you're making sure that you send response. That is very critical. You can also log into VandalStar and cancel an appointment through that way. Just kind of some different things. I made changes, so I actually want to make sure that I hit submit. And then we'll go over to email notifications. So for email notifications, you can say how much email you get from VandalStar, with some restrictions that I will mention here in a moment. You can say that you want a separate email reminder for every appointment that you have. Maybe you only have a couple of appointments each week and you want it to email you. If you are a professional advisor and you have back-to-back appointments all day, then you probably aren't going to want an email reminder for every appointment. But maybe you want an email reminder at 7 a.m. the day of the appointment, so that when you first get into the office, you open up your email and there's your email and it lists all of the appointments that you have coming up that day. Or you can have it give you an alert before the start of an appointment. You can also get summary emails on the tracking items or the appointment activity. So if there's flags raised or there was appointment scheduled or canceled or whatever, I have turned on that I receive a daily summary at 2 a.m. that just gives me a list in my email of what has happened for my students. I also can turn on tracking item notifications. So you can, if you wanted to, say, I want an email every time an item is raised. I want an email every time an item is cleared, or I want an email when an item is assigned to me. So maybe you are not the primary person that flag went to in a workflow, but advising leadership says, oh, this other person is stepping in, now I'm going to assign it over to this other person. So I like to make sure that I'm receiving notifications if an item is assigned to me. Otherwise, I'm living in my dashboard, in my environment, and I will usually see if it's assigned to me, but maybe I'm not in it for a little bit. So it's up to you for what you want the system to notify you about, except for those exceptions, and those are listed over here. We have some flags that have an emergency rule, which means that you're going to get an email regardless if you want to or not. So we have said if a student says, I need help, that is critical, and it will go to the appropriate person in the workflow that it's supposed to go to, whether no matter what the email settings are. There are ways in Outlook to manage incoming email. You can create folders, you can establish rules and stuff. So there are ways to manage that. I don't anticipate that people are going to get a flood of email based on these emergency rules that we've established, but just know that they are there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go click over and click on, actually I'll show you here. You can click on help under your profile here, but that help goes to Starfish, not to VandalStar. So if you do have questions or need help with anything, please email us at vandalstar@uidaho.edu or give us a call on 885-8787. There was a question that came through. This should also work with Mac Mail for those of us who don't use Outlook. I don't know. We haven't had a whole lot of tests with that. All of the Mac users that I know use the Outlook app, the OA app, and it does work with the OA app, the Outlook web application. So if you are using some other application on your Mac for mail, that would be interesting to hear how that works for you. The two-way calendar integration does not work with Google. The company supports it, but the University of Idaho does not. We do not have a FERPA compliant contract or security contract with Google. We only have one with Microsoft. So that might also fall into that Mac Mail question. If it is an Apple Mail client, then that might not actually work. You might have to use the Outlook web app for it to work. And then also in the, you can click on log out. So if you want to log out, you can log out from the system. If you are in the habit of having students log in on your computer, please make sure that you open up a private browser or an incognito window before going into Starfish or VandalWeb or VandalStar or VandalWeb, either or BBL or any of them, so that they're logging in only in a private browser, because what will happen is it remembers you. You log out, you go back to the browser, you log back in, and it shoots you straight back into your profile, into your setting. And so just to help minimize that, make sure that you're using a private browser whenever you have students use your computer. Okay, so let's go ahead and go look at appointments. James, as far as Apple's calendar, we'll probably have to look at that online and see if it is. I'm not aware that it is supported. I think we have to strictly use Microsoft for it. So in appointments, it pulls up my calendar. You guys get to see my lovely calendar here in full view. I have calendar integration turned on. You'll see that I have a lot of appointments going on. You can have an agenda view where it's just a list, and then your office hours kind of show up here over on the side. You can have the day view, which you already saw, and then you can have a week view. So within the week view, you can turn it on to be a 5-day or a 7-day view. You can scroll through the weeks. You can scroll through the weeks over here. It's yelling at me for a minute. You can drop down over here and choose different months or years to navigate faster to a place. You can just click on it. So similar to most calendar functionalities, it will have the same thing here. You'll see that I have several appointments on my calendar, medical appointments. Those list as private appointments. So for my calendar managers, they show as just a blocked out appointment that's not available. I've been doing a lot of testing, and so I've got office hours, before hours, and after hours in a lot of different places, and we'll show you then how to use the calendar system. In VandalStar Live, I let Outlook control my VandalStar calendar. I set up my office hours Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. I have calendar integration going on. And so what's available for students are only the times that are still available, that haven't been blocked out. So when I say I use Outlook, I will put in my lunch hour or lunch appointments or whatever onto my Outlook calendar, and it immediately will block it off on my VandalStar calendar so that those time slots aren't showing to students. When I receive an appointment from across the university or from somewhere as an invitation, it then blocks off that time for students, so they can't see that that time is available anymore. We will actually, that is a calendar integration just came through. So that is a very good question. Let's shoot straight back over to that. I apologize, I skipped over it. We're gonna go back to email notifications. So on this page, down right here, it says read busy times from external calendar. There is this in red important spot, and then it has click here for further instructions. Don't do that. You can if you want to, but it's a lot longer process. We have worked with our solutions architect here at U of I, and we've created a much easier process. If you want to sync your calendar, you email vandalstar@uidaho.edu. You say, please sync my calendar. We add you to a user group, and then reply back and say, please proceed forward. You can now check the read busy times from my external exchange calendar and then hit submit, and it should happen pretty much instantaneously. If it still hasn't happened after 10 minutes, please let us know about that. Item to note that I also want to bring up is these two check boxes here. These are very important for calendar integration. You need to have it checked for change to my appointments, because what will happen is you will set up office hours in the system, and then students will start scheduling in those office hours. If you don't have this turned on, then those student appointments won't go over to your Outlook calendar, to your non-VandalStar calendar, to show and block out for other people to then see that you are busy. So this one should be checked, and this one should be checked. This one is up to you. This one is going to block out the office hour block on your external calendar. So if you only have office hours a couple hours a week, this is probably a good choice, because you want those office hours to show on your external calendar as you're operating throughout the semester. For professional advisors or folks who have back-to-back day appointments, we don't want that block to show. We don't want our Outlook calendar to show 8 to 5 that those are an office hour, because then what happens is a student schedules and then it puts it in side by side for that same day. So it makes our external calendar look very cluttered and harder to use. So if you want to have it show the office hour block, then you would check that, but if you don't, leave it unchecked. This is what makes the student appointments show as they are scheduled. And this is what turns on the calendar integration period. Okay, so going back into appointments, we're going to set up some office hours. So go ahead and click on the office hours button. This is a dialog box. We're just playing, so it's not actually going to put it on your calendar because you don't have integration yet. Or if you let's make sure that you remember to delete it after we're done, as we're playing. You can name it whatever you want. This is for your own purpose. So maybe you want to call your office hours different things for different courses or what have you. If you have multiple office hour blocks, there isn't a way yet that I know of that you can only have the course. If you name this biology office hours, it's not going to show to just biology. It will show to all of your other students too. So this is just an organization for you. So most people just call it office hours. You can have it do once or daily or weekly, or there's a lot of parameters here. So I'm going to go ahead and say I want every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I want it to repeat every week. And then my start time and end time, I'm going to meet with students at 6 p.m. until 9 p.m. So just go ahead and go through and fill out. I want them to be able to do phone appointment or in person. Notice here that I have the Pittman Center. That was because I had an event there. So I'm not going to check this because this isn't for my normal office hours. I'm going to choose scheduled and walk-ins. You can say I only want scheduled or I only want walk-ins. Scheduled and walk-ins gives you the most flexibility later to be able to enter in notes if you do have a walk-in. If you have just scheduled appointments, then it's harder to go in and add in a walk-in in a time block. How long do I want my appointment lengths to be? 30 minutes to, let's go with 1 hour. Some areas might say, I have a lot of hour-and-a-half appointments, like career services. They have a couple of categories. We have set up within presets. So if I choose academic advising, because that's what I'm going to fall under, for you, if you're an instructor, you should actually also have an instructor box that shows up. Most of these other ones you're not going to choose because that's going to be for other areas. But if you are in that area, that's the one that you would activate. So within these categories are subcategories. So within academic advising, we have listed different reasons that students might be coming to see you. So they want to do a withdrawal, or they want to talk about changing their major, or graduation planning, or a petition, or they're on probation, or they're a new incoming student. So different things like that. And so those categories we have automatically pre-programmed to be either a 30-minute appointment or an hour appointment, depending on what that category is. Because as I mentioned earlier, students don't always know how long they should be choosing. So we're kind of doing that for them. Some other areas have left it as more of a free-for-all where the specific user sets their length of time. Instructions here would be, if I'm setting these hours for repeating for just a couple weeks, though, maybe it's the beginning of the semester, I say, please bring your syllabi and course planner to our appointment. Start end date, I can go in here and I can start it and I can end it, the series, on a certain time frame, just like you would in other calendar managers. If I click down here, I can do end of term, and then I can select the term that I'm interested in. Or I can do on a date or after a date. So if I select on a date, I'm just going to have it go out for these next 2 weeks, and then I'm going to submit it. One thing to know about is VandalStar has errors sometimes. So if you've turned on your calendar integration, you can see that I already have existing meetings here. My Outlook is telling VandalStar that those are not free times that can be scheduled. VandalStar or Starfish will not let you double book yourself. So that is a known issue that we are trying to figure out how to help users through and work around, because we have a habit of double booking ourselves. Of having sometimes there'll be multiple appointments, or you have on your calendar that you need to be working on this, but you're still open to having interruptions. It's just a to-do for you. So in those cases, we ask that you make sure that your external calendar, that item is marked as free time, because that then will enable the office hour block to actually come over to your calendar. The other piece I would say is set up your office hours before we turn on two-way calendar integration, and then that will get around that problem also. So for our display purposes, I'm just having them go in the afternoon, in the evening, so that I can show you how to use the system. You'll see over here on the calendar, there's some bolded times or dates, and then there's non-bolded. Those bolded mean that I have office hours set up on that day. So this is what it looks like on our calendar. Alternately, I have a student that comes in they're in my office in a panic. and they really need to meet with me. And I can be like, oh, I don't have any openings, but you know what? I have an opening tomorrow at 8 a.m. I'll come in to meet with you. So you can click on appointment, and then you can go find the student. Feel free to play along here, and we're going to meet with the student at 8 a.m. And you can put in the reason student wants to talk about semester withdrawal. Where we're going to meet in my office. Reason, complete withdrawal. So here's some categories that you can choose from. And then maybe it's affiliated with the course or maybe it's not. So in this case it's not, so I'm going to leave it. And then here where it says shared or private, all records within VandalStar are disclosable to students under FERPA. So if we are subpoenaed, we have to give those records under law. It's the same policy that applies to our email, to Vandal Web, to any paper notes that you have in your office. If the university or the student knows about it, they are subpoenable. So for most of what we're going to do, you're going to have it be as shared because that's the purpose of this. It's a shared platform for the university, but you might have cases where it does need to be marked private. Same rules as apply on your Outlook calendar. Maybe the student is coming in to talk to you about some other faculty member in the department, and you've got calendar managers, and we want to keep that a little locked down so people can't see that that is what's going on. Or maybe the student has a much more sensitive item that they want to talk about. They've got some health issues that are going on or so forth. And so you can choose to mark it as private. So that just shows to the external world that you have a private appointment, that they can't see what it's for. On the student folder, it also doesn't have the information for what that appointment was for. So know about that option there, and then submit it. So there's the appointment that I just created. It immediately puts it in the students folder and immediately puts it on my Outlook calendar, and it sent Jesse an email, but not in this case because we're just playing around in the test tenant. Or, you know, a student comes in and says, you know, I really need to meet with you, and you're like, great, I've got a time tomorrow at 7 a.m. You can click on that plus box, and it will then automatically pull in the date and time because you've already established that as your office hours. So I can say, again, who it is, and select the location. It's a phone appointment. The reason is we're going to be talking about study abroad, but he also is really interested in finding out more information about his marketing class. I put in some notes and I hit submit. So you can schedule appointments for students, and students can schedule appointments for themselves if you've turned on your office hours online scheduling. You can turn on office hours and that online scheduling without doing the two-way calendar integration. If you do that, then that means that those appointments aren't going to go over to your other calendar automatically. There is a question came through that said, who can see it if it's shared? When we are creating the appointment or creating up the office hours, when you select the reason, that reason then is coded to who can view it. So again, back to the diligent piece where we're creating roles, we're creating appointment types, we're creating note types and message types. We have to decide who gets to see what. So it should show to you who will be able to see the appointment. This is in the test version. This is no longer the case. In the live version, as we onboard other roles, you'll be able to see, again, at that point in time, who can see what on the student's folder. General user, we've actually limited some of the ability now So the general user won't see as much now, but you'll also see other roles that have been added. So let's pretend then that we've met with Jesse. He came in for his appointment. We talked about it. If you hover over the calendar icon, you can see the details about that appointment. You can do certain things from it. You can cancel it or edit it. If we go over and click on person info, there's the contact information for Jesse with his picture, his phone number. And then if I hover over his name, this is the mini part of his student folder. So you can do a flag or a kudo or a message or note directly from here. There's his contact information. So we'll go ahead and click on here and we'll go to outcomes because we just met with Jesse. It's actually the same dialog box as when you're creating an appointment. So if you're going in and putting in an appointment after the fact, the student is already gone, then you can schedule it. I actually recommend that you hit submit to make sure it goes to your calendar, just in case you receive that error that says, hey, you can't do this because you can't double book yourself. Then you wouldn't have put so much time into doing all the rest of this. So I recommend that you do the scheduling first and then go back in and open the dialog box up. You can put in the actual time for when you met. Maybe it was a lot longer conversation. So yeah, he was 15 minutes late. So he came in at 7:15, but we talked until 9 a.m., not p.m., a.m. Or you can check that the student missed the appointment. So if you check this box and then you hit submit, it sends the student an email that says, hey, you missed your appointment. You can send a copy of the note to the student. Maybe there's something that you've agreed that the student needs to do or follow up on. Inherently, the information that's in here, the notes that we're putting into, is not viewable by the student. It's only viewable if they have a flag that's raised on them or a kudo that's raised on them because they need to know that information. Or if you have sent a message, that's more of an email kind of thing. And so they can see the messages they received. And if you send a copy of the note to the student, they can see that. But if you are just putting in meeting notes or if you are just putting in notes onto their profile, the student doesn't have that information. That is just for employees at the university, for the people who we have granted that access to. So in this case, I actually want Jesse to follow up on something. So we talked about course withdrawal. He's going to check in to tutoring and talk with financial aid. So this is something that we agreed that he was going to do. I tend to write novels about student meetings. I want to put in there what students have shared with me that they did in high school, what they're doing now for extracurricular, what their career goals are, any struggles that they might be having, but also following along with kind of standard protocol of protecting some information. So if a student is having any health issues or medications or something like that, or maybe might be depressed, or I'll put in there referred to CTC or referred to student health clinic. So that's my way of creating a note that says, something else might be going on, or, I could say a student is struggling with some family issues at home, and I might go into further detail, but just leaving it that as a basic. But with that, maybe you don't have time to write a novel, or you want to track certain things. We have speed notes activated. Depending then on the category that you put in will be the speed notes that you see. So we talked about academic probation and academic goals and registration for class, financial aid process, adjustment to college, and we have a long list of referrals. So in the future, we will have an active referral system within VandalStar. You will be able to actually push the referral button for a student, enter in the office, and it will send it over to that office. But first, we have to build the platform to have all of those offices in there before we can turn on that referral system. So right now, we just have the quick clicks for you to keep track of who you've referred the student to, what they need to be doing, that kind of thing. So maybe at the end of the month or the end of the semester, or someone comes and asks you what you're doing, you can we can provide you with a report where you said, I spent 500 hours this semester meeting with students, and 60% of them I referred to career services, and we spent a lot of, we spent half of that time talking to students who were on academic probation, or just different things like that, with the ability to do that. And so then I hit submit, and it saves it in his folder. So if we go actually back now to him, if I click on his name, it opens up the student folder, the profile. So here's his information. There's his picture and his contact information. It has the ability to do single items. There's that referral I was talking about. You can raise a flag or a kudo. You can send him a message, which is basically an email coming from the system, but it's recording it in here also. Or you can put a note on his record. You can schedule an appointment from right here too. It has certain attributes that we've loaded in, and we're working on some others. So class level, he's a junior, and the last term that he registered for. In the live version, you shouldn't actually have these open up boxes. So if you see that, let us know what major he is, if he's registered. Yes, he is for this fall semester. If you have been given the access to admissions information or current student information, such as GPA and number of credits completed and affiliations and such, that will show in the info. So if admissions information would be their test scores, their high school GPA, that kind of stuff. And then if we keep going down, success plans are not actually turned on yet. Again, that will come here later. But once they do, it'll be really cool. You can click on courses. So here are all of the courses that he's registered for fall semester, along with the people that he's registered with. So it pulls it up. There's the overview. So that's where that comes in for when you put in on your profile, your overview and your biography. If you've been affiliated with any services, it shows there, and then the contact information. And then he can actually, or I can, on my side of things, I can flip to all terms or previous semesters, and here is all of his registration for the entire time that he's been with the university. And it goes backwards. So, well, kind of backwards. So here's summer, and then fall 2018. Oh, it's not actually lining up that way. Okay, I'm going to play with that. You can see the grades that are pulling in that he got for that course. So kind of like an unofficial transcript where you can see that information. Midterm grades, so we've started loading in the midterm files. So one shot here. You can look at previous semesters at a time or what have you. If we keep going through, if you click on tracking, here are all the flags and kudos that were raised for Jesse. I need help from my instructor. He said, I'm going to miss the next test. What options are there? When and that happened. Let's see. Academic issue. This one, Jesse is MIA. Jesse, please connect with me ASAP. I was raised and then was assigned to Eric. So it has kind of the play-by-play for what happens. If we go to meetings, here are all of the meetings. As I mentioned, Jesse's been my test case. So tomorrow at 7 a.m. was the one that we just did. We talked about course withdrawal. He's going to check in the tutoring and financial aid. Here's the quick clicks that I did and the actual start and end time for what happened. And then notes are going to be all of it. So all appointments, all flags, all base notes, all messages that were sent through it, appointment comments, close the loop comments, kudos. I said, I really appreciate the leadership you have displayed in ASUI. We can go then to network, and here is that success network that I showed you when the student first logs in. This is their connections. So here are all of his connections, all of his instructors, his advisor, his VA advisor, all right here. You can select all and then email all of them. Maybe you need to contact them for some reason. Maybe he's had a death in the family, or he'll be out of school for the next week, and so you need to reach out to everybody. You can do it through here. You can, let's deselect all. You can also look at the term. So if we said all, here are all of the instructors that he's had for all of the terms, all of the advisors, all of that right there. So you can go term by term. Maybe you wanted to look back at all 17 instructors. You can do that. The students don't have the capability to look back at previous instructor information, but we do. And that can come in. Sometimes you're talking with the student and maybe you're talking about internship that they want to apply for, and they took a class 2 years ago and they can't figure out how to get a hold of that contact information for that instructor anymore. So you can look back and be like, okay, this is who the instructor was, and here's how you can get a hold of them. So that's the student folder in a nutshell. There is a question coming through about, is it possible to enter outcome speed notes and referrals for meetings that we did not arrange through the scheduling system? And then I hope so. I'm not sure completely what you mean. If you have a meeting that is not in VandalStar, then you either need to create it as an appointment so that it logs it as an appointment, or you can create it as a note. If you create it as a note, then it's not going to give you those speed notes options. But if you create it as an appointment, so say you had a meeting, you're managing everything with your external calendar, and so then you just go create an appointment, log in all of the information, and then submit it. Correct. You don't have to rely on the Outlook calendar. You do, so with that though, if you're gonna use a different calendar and you want to do this, you're gonna be managing 2 calendars at the same time. So if you've got office hours turned on and people are signing up for it, you'll want to make sure that those are reflected in your other calendar too. Or maybe you just don't use the online scheduling in this, but then you can still record information in VandalStar. So again, I mentioned that you can do group sessions or events. There's also that scheduling wizard. So office hours are for regular office hour appointments that you would have, like very standard, they happen all the time kind of thing. The scheduling wizard is for those very random, like you've got office hours on Monday from 1 to 2 and Tuesday from 3 to 4, but next Tuesday they're actually from 9 to 10. So that wizard can do that for you. So let's go ahead and keep going through. I actually want to skip students for a moment and go straight to services. So we'll click into services. And I want to show you, you have the same view of services as students do. There isn't very many loaded here because this is the test tenant, so we just loaded some in to make sure it was working all that we wanted to. You can type in tutoring, and it gives you all of the options. You can type in advising, and it gives you different options. You can type in people, and again, this is test, so it's not going to work for everybody, so there I am. Different things like that. Something to know about is VandalStar is using official name. There isn't a way yet to do preferred name. So similar to the rest of our systems, if a student or faculty or staff have an official name, but they use a different name that they go by, if you're searching in the system, it has to be the official name. So William might be called Bill in our normal day of life, but he's William in this system. So if we click into a service, this is again what it looks like. You can see that we've been playing around with loading in the professional advisors into academic advising. If they've turned on calendar or 2A calendar, or online appointment scheduling. Now I gotta go find myself. Here we are down here. I just set up some office hours. Okay, so that part isn't working right now. Don't pay attention to that. Let me do a different one. So you should be able, oh, sorry, we're not logged in as the student. I'm sorry. So on the student side, when they click on service, it should say schedule appointment. I apologize. I was wearing the wrong hat. But if I click on view profile, there's my profile. So you can look at different employees or people who are assigned within that service. Okay, let's go ahead and go over to students. And when you first navigate to students, it's going to actually go to all my students. It's going to be a bit overwhelming. It's going to show you 21,000 students, because if you have any kind of role, instructor or advisor or something like that, academic dean or associate dean, then you also have general user. And all my students is taking all of your roles and putting it together into one big list, which is gonna give you all students at the University of Idaho. So when you first log in, we recommend that you go to your connection and drop down and choose the connection that you are going to be operating in. You can change the term. I can go back to fall 2017 and I can choose professional advisor. And here is my advising roster from fall 2017. But I want to operate in the active term, which is right now. So we're going to take it back to active. And I'm going to go ahead and flip over to advising leadership. So you, in your drop down, when you click down, if you're an instructor, you'll have an instructor role, which takes all of your students in all of your classes and puts it into instructor. As a subset of instructor, you should also see each of your classes. So you can scroll through each of your classes to that specific course, and it gives you the roster for that course. Please keep in mind that graduate students and law students are not pulling in. So if your course roster looks different, that's the first thing that I would say is let's check that. The other thing that I would say is make sure that your filters are turned off. We are using what's called sticky filters. So if you log out of VandalStar, it will stay at whatever you left it at until you change it. So you can search by student name, username, or ID. You have the ability to add filters. So if we go over here, we'll click on add filters. You can narrow down by tracking item. More cooler or more interesting, you can go to cohorts and relationship. You can click on section. You can type in the CRN number of a course and it will pull up that section, and then you load it over. So let's just pretend that we typed in a CRN here for the Spanish 302 course. We load it in and then we hit submit. So within my population and my connection, I filtered down to the course roster of these students. I could go in and instead of doing that, I don't want to do sections, I do organization. I'm an advisor for multiple departments. So maybe I want to just contact the students that are in electrical engineering and actually spell it correctly. So search engineering, and I want, well, I guess let's just go pick biological. We load it over, and then we hit submit. And there's my students that are in biological engineering. I want to tell them about the back to school picnic that's coming up. I can choose all. I can click through. I have to choose all on each page. It's limited to 25 students per page, and you can only do bulk action for up to 500 students. So know that there is that limitation. So we're going to actually stop at 2 pages. I'm going to send them a message. Yes, I know it will work a little bit slower because I did more. And I'm going to say picnic next week, and then enter information about event. I can send a copy of the note to myself, and then I hit submit. And now, if we were in the live version, it would have sent out an email message to all of those students. It also would have put that message as a on their student folder so that we can see that that message was sent to those students. I can be like, okay, it's now time for open advising. We're just going to keep using this subset. It's time for open advising. I'm going to contact all of them with a message, and I send a message. There was this operation complete, so that email that I sent just finished, and it gave me a little confirmation that it finished. I have my course that I'm managing, and I have some students that did really great, and these students did absolutely amazing on the test. I'm going to raise a kudo. I'm going to say, keep up the good work. Great job on the test last week. And then I'm going to save it. And all of those students that I checked now have been given a kudo. Bam, just like that. And so on these bulk actions, do remember that not to personalize it. Maybe it was the first day of classes, and it's just triage mode right now. So I've got my piece of paper or my line out of all my sticky notes on my desk, and I am just recording names and maybe a little brief note as they're coming in because it's just happening so fast. And so then at the end of the day, I can be like, okay, I know they came in, they came in, they came in, they came in. So I can select all the students that came in, and I put a note on their profile. Note type, and it's just an advising note, stopped by 8/20/2018. So I can say stopped by on the first day of school. Maybe it's as simple as that. Or maybe these 5 had the same trend, and so they've been asking about wait list for ISM 101. I can send a copy of note to myself. I can send a copy of a note to the student. And so, bam, I hit submit. This note goes on their student file. If I did not send a copy of note to the student, then the student does not see this note. It's only because I marked send a copy of note to the student that the student will be able to see it, and the student got a message for it. Same thing with flags. I can have a couple of students that have been having some problems, have been missing classes, and I can raise flags. I select the flag. I only have academic issue because I'm not an instructor. I type in, there's these auto fields that can come in, type in what is needed, or you can delete the whole thing, use what you need. And then I can affiliate it to a course, but in this case, they're not in a common course, so it's not going to give me that. But if it was instructor, then you could tie it directly to that course. And then I save it, and it raises a flag on those students that goes through. So that's the My Students version. If we flip over, there's tracking. So now you can see I have filters on. So maybe I remove those filters. There's your connection is all my students, so you don't want that. And actually, I want to use advising leadership. I want to see just the assigned to me flags, and just narrowed it down to there. So there's the 2 students with their flag. If I hover over it, there's what it looks like. I can see details and stuff. I can clear the flag. So then I say concern was successfully addressed. Student is going to tutoring. I want to make sure that I send a message to Mackenzie. I can copy the comment back down, and I hit submit. That clears that flag. It closes the loop back to Mackenzie, and it clears it off of my active flags that I need to be working on. So a lot of ability to do different things. You can comment on a flag, which leaves it as a note that's on the flag, but doesn't actually clear the flag. So maybe there is something that's in progress for what is working on for that flag, and so you can just leave notes for it. For instructors, you can't see it here, but instructors will have 2 additional tabs. They'll have Zoom in, and they'll also have attendance. So Zoom in is just a different view of the student list. The student list has first name, last name listed, and it's limited to 25 students per page. The Zoom in feature doesn't have a limit to the students per page, or maybe it's just a greater limit, but it lists the students' names as last name, comma, first name. And so when you're trying to look at what's going on in BB Learn and want to have this side by side, that Zoom in is the is a better comparison for that. And then attendance, if you wanted to take attendance for class, there's a lot of features for that we won't cover in today's session. So that's pretty much it for VandalStar. Please feel free to play around in the test tenant and send us any questions that you might have at vandalstar@uidaho.edu. It's been great having you here and having all of the questions come through. Alternately, you can also call us at 208-885-VSTR or 8787. Thanks so much. If you do have any questions, please feel free to stay on and I can answer some for a little bit, but if you need to head out, go ahead and go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.